Yeah, I think it's time we talk about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always Netflix anniversary special. But I gotta admit, I am a little underdressed for this. There's only one thing to do. It's Morphin time!
Tyrannosaurus!
Yep, that is much better. So Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always is the brand new Netflix 2023 special that sees a reunion of some of the classic Mighty Morphin Power Rangers characters, including David Yost as Billy, Walter Jones as Zach, Catherine Sutherland coming in as Kat, Steve Cardenas returning as Rocky, and introducing Charlie Kirsch as the daughter of Trini, Min Kwan. And just to let you know, I will probably be touching on some heavy spoilers throughout this video, so if you haven't watched that special, I recommend you do before finishing this video. But I will say, from the very beginning, I was just completely on board with this special because we've got Billy who's being attacked by Robot Rita and some putties, at which he gets to morph into the Blue Ranger, and then the other Power Rangers come in and do battle, and we get that logo reveal of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always, and the Go-Go Power Rangers theme is playing, and it is just, oh, it is so nostalgic. And I will say, despite the lack of participation from Jason David Frank, who was alive at the time but had declined to be in the special, as well as Amy Jo Johnson, and the fact that Austin St. John was not able to participate either, they actually did a really good job, I think, establishing that in the beginning these are those characters, because they take sounds and hi-yas and lift some dialogue from past Power Ranger episodes and work their way into the special. So even though it's obviously not them, these are suit actors, you're still getting those familiar sounds of those characters. But yeah, these first few minutes, it's just peak Power Rangers goodness. But then the special takes a very dark turn as Robot Rita launches effectively a death spell against Billy, and Trini jumps in the way of that, as we saw in the trailer, and the character is sadly killed off. And then it's just a very sad moment, and then Robot Rita retreats, and she's all gloating and happy that, she killed off a Power Ranger. And then it's Billy and Zach that are the ones going to Trini's daughter Min to tell her that her mom is now dead. And it's a very interesting sequence because Zach and Billy are kind of just arguing back and forth of what do we tell her. Billy wants to tell her the truth, but Zach, he doesn't want to let Min know that her mom was a Power Ranger and all that. And I will say this is a special that follows not just Power Ranger tropes, but just tropes in general. So of course, as these two are arguing, Min walks in, overhears the whole thing, at which point we then cut to 1 year later, and Zach, who had been a congressman, had left that life behind, he is now the one taking care of Min. And we also see that over the course of this year, Min has been training, getting in shape. She definitely wants a battle with Robot Rita. And so her and Zach, they go to meet the other Power Rangers at the cemetery to, kind of mourn the 1 year death of their friend. But Robot Rita attacks again, and during this time frame, she manages to capture Jason, Tommy, and Kimberly. And this is overall what sets the main plot in motion, where we find out that Robot Rita, her intention is to capture as many Power Rangers as possible. So she starts, sending off a whole bunch of putties like all over the planet. Billy and Zach have no choice but to initiate what's known as the Pandora Protocol, which contacts like other groups of Power Rangers who we don't really get to see in this outside of some tiny toy figures to say, hey, this Ranger was captured, that Ranger was captured, which I think was very interesting because given the way this movie was kind of cut together, made me believe that perhaps there were some planned sequences to show these other Power Rangers getting captured, but they either, ran out of time or didn't fit the budget, or maybe some things were shot and just didn't make the final cut. But still, after the protocol is initiated, Kat and Rocky then show up and take these new power coins that Alpha 9 had helped develop alongside Billy, just in case, anything had happened to Jason and Kim and Tommy and whatnot, so that no matter what, they could also morph into Power Rangers. And so they do, and we get a very interesting fight sequence with the Power Rangers and the Putties, and also the monsters Snizzard and Minotaur. And again, we're back at peak Power Ranger fun. It's the Power Rangers fighting monsters as we love to watch as children. Though I will admit, there was this one scene that I thought was very funny, where one of the Putties that Cat was fighting, you can see the neck covering from the Putty, kind of flip up over his face. I'm surprised they didn't catch that in post, but I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. And it's also not long before Alpha 9 discovers that Minotaur and Snizzard are tracking the Power Rangers while they're morphed, so they have to demorph and try to handle the situation. Thus, they end up regrouping at the command center. But also during this time, Min, who had been in an argument a little bit with Zach, but primarily at Billy as of right now, she more or less blames him for the death of her mother, and she just wants revenge on Rita so bad that she takes Trini's saber-toothed tiger morpher, and she runs out to Ernie's juice bar to fight Putties. And lo and behold, the first time she tries to morph, absolutely nothing happens. She did not morph. She can't figure out why. And she now has to contend with Putties with no powers. But of course, the other Rangers see that, and so Zach and Rocky, they go in, they start fighting against the Putties. We even get traditional Zach in hip-hop keto mode, and the dialogue that Min says, I just started laughing, where she's just looking at Zach going, "Are you breakdance fighting?" I mean, it's hip-hop keto. Who doesn't want to see Walter Jones do his hip-hop keto? And once Min is safe, back inside the command center, they start formulating a plan of how to get to the moon, take Snizzard and Minotaur completely out of the equation, and overall just get their friends back. And because Snizzard and Minotaur are, the cybernetic / robotic versions of their former selves, they use a giant crane magnet to trap them. And now it's off to the moon, where the Rangers are utilizing these handy-dandy little cloaking devices that Billy had developed and given to Adam and Aisha, who we actually saw a few scenes previous on a monitor. They had this little badge that's called SPA, I'm guessing Space Patrol Alpha. We even get an Easter egg of the Trubian Empire's name getting dropped. And overall, it's just really fun to see these characters again, because the intention here is that they're actually on their way to Earth, but they're still quite a ways away. It's gonna be a while before they show up. So again, the Power Rangers can't wait. They gotta be proactive. So yes, they take these little cloaking devices, they get to the moon, and they just take out the Putties that are around this machine. And also around this time, Min has not quite learned her lesson just yet, uses the cloaking device to escape the command center, and heads out to go take on Snizzard and Minotaur. And once she arrives, she once again attempts to use the saber-tooth tiger morpher again and again. It does not work, and at this point, Robot Rita then comes out, and the two have a little scuffle, of which, despite Min's skill as a martial artist, she just can't stack up against Robot Rita, who just makes easy work of her, which means Min is now a prisoner, and Rita takes Snizzard and Minotaur. They get to the moon to surprise the Power Rangers, and it's here that Rita completely lays her plan out. She's been using all of the little Power Rangers to power her device, which is going to end up becoming a portal to the past, where her goal is to get in touch with her younger self before she was, ever in robot mode, give her advanced knowledge of the future, and kill all of the Power Rangers before Zordon has a chance to make them Rangers. And naturally, there is a really big fight going on, at which during Robot Rita attempts to use the death spell on Billy once again, and this time it is Min that jumps in front of it. And when all is looking lost, it turns out that the blast had ended up hitting the morpher, and because of Min's act of heroism, has unlocked the power and now tapped into the morphing grid. So now all of the Rangers, Min included, line up, shout it's morphing time, and we get a nice recreation in stunning HD with new CGI, as they call out their dinosaur names. And I will say at this point, I had an even bigger smile on my face because now all 5 Power Rangers are together and they are fighting the putties. And I will say I love the effects of what they were doing with the putties here, because normally when in the past series, whenever the putties would get defeated, they would just kind of disappear. But here they actually crumble and fall to pieces because, you know, they are made of clay. But of course, despite the battle, the main objective is to take out Snizzard, because it's his powers that are keeping all of the miniaturized Rangers effectively bonded to the machine and powering it. And so Robot Rita does the only thing she can. She tosses him out onto the surface of the moon and uses her magic wand to make him grow. And I will say here, I was a little disappointed that they didn't do, you know, the classic or utilize the classic footage of like the ground splitting and, you know, the smoke kind of coming up and just kind of making the monster grow. At this point, it's pretty much all CGI Snizzard, which really surprised me because, you know, I thought that would actually end up costing more money than just utilizing the suit they already have and just shooting from, you know, lower angles to make them seem bigger. But nonetheless, we've got a monster, therefore it's time for the Zords. And if you've seen the trailer, you know that the Zords are also 100% CGI. I mean, it's a good recreation of, you know, the Zords coming out of the ground, jumping from the mountains and whatnot. And of course, Alpha 9 then transports, you know, the Zords to the moon, and they come together and they form the Megazord. And I was kind of expecting after the Megazord's formation that they were gonna go do the classic guy in a suit, but no, he's also CGI. A lot of detail, but very stiff. And I will say this is one part of the special where I'm like, did it need to be CGI? Would it have potentially not been cheaper just to go with a guy in a suit? Because during the whole battle sequence, it's kind of it's a bit underwhelming. Because in classic Power Rangers fashion, you know, I think more people are used to, you know, the more tokusatsu approach with, you know, low shot angles, you know, miniatures and stuff. I mean, they already had the moon laid out. They already had Snizzard's costume. All they really had to do was, you know, if they didn't have a Megazord costume, or if the original one was just not able to be used anymore, they could have just made a new one, but they didn't. They decided to go all CGI here. And again, the budget wasn't very high for it. But nonetheless, it's Billy and Min that are the first ones in the Megazord, and they're doing their best, but Snizzard is very strong. And back inside the palace, the rest of the Rangers manage to take out Minotaur, which means afterwards, they too get to transport inside the Megazord. And now that all 5 Rangers are in the Megazord, they are operating at full capacity, and they manage to take out Snizzard by flipping over him, and kind of looks like it just sort of like poked him a little in the side, and then he just blew up. Because again, I thought they would have like just, you know, either use the pre-existing footage of the Megazord like powering up the sword and slicing, or done a recreation of it utilizing the CGI effects that they were already using, and also doing like the Go-Go Power Rangers theme, but they didn't do that either. So yeah, I guess at the very end, the whole Megazord sequence is probably the most disappointing aspect about the special. But then the Power Rangers, after Snizzard's defeat, they manage to separate their friends. They're still miniature, but they can disconnect them from the machine, and Robot Rita is destroyed. And I am so surprised they did not use the Power Blaster for that. I mean, yes, Zack's axe has, you know, the blaster built into it, but again, you missed an opportunity for the Power Blaster. Why would you do that? It was right there. You could have done it. You could have done it. But hey, all's well that ends well. We go back to the command center. Adam and Aisha have finally arrived. They're going to take all of the miniaturized Rangers to Aquitar to get the effects of Snizzard's miniaturization reversed. Billy, Zack, and Min go to the juice bar. They reminisce about Trini, and Min even talks about how she, you know, got effectively implemented with like a bunch of Trini's memories and what being a Power Ranger meant to her. It was a very nice sentiment. And even though Billy wasn't 100% sure, you know, what the cause of that was, he just said that, you know, the Morphin grid is this, complex entity to a degree, and, its capabilities are practically limitless. And then we fade into a clip of an old Power Rangers episode from season 2. I believe it is episode 11, titled The Song of Gyataro, which was like the completion of Tommy's Green No More arc. And I will say it hit. This was a scene that was probably the best way, I think, you could cap off a special like this, where you just get to see, the entire Power Ranger team as we remember them, seeing them happy, seeing them together, and, then it fades again, and we get the memoriam image of Twee Trang and Jason David Frank, which hit in a very, very different way, because of the unfortunate passing of Jason David Frank and, of course, Twee Trang back in 2001. And yet we still see the words, once a Ranger, always a Ranger. And I think Rita may have actually sent the Funyun Onion monster after me right at that point, because, teared up a little bit. Just a little emotional. But yes, that was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always 2023 Netflix special. And overall, I will say I loved it. This special was, it was just reaching back into the past and, recapturing a moment of my childhood, of when I would get up on Saturday morning or after school. I would sit down, eat a snack, whatever I had in my hand at the time for food, and I would just watch Power Rangers. And yeah, that's a very powerful feeling right there. This is definitely a special that I think was developed with, a lot of heart and a lot of love for the franchise. Even bringing up things that, didn't happen in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, like showing, the tube where Zordon was supposed to be, but of course we know that Andros had cracked Zordon's shell to spread his essence all over the galaxy and to stop Dark Specter's, minions from taking over everything. Which was also another point I wanted to touch on too. The explanation for Robot Rita was very interesting, because Billy was attempting to find Zordon's essence to see if he could reconfigure him back into the tube, and when they got a lock, it turned out that it wasn't Zordon, it was the essence of Rita Repulsa, who then manages to escape and take over Alpha 8's body. So it was very interesting because, the whole special, put a lot of what happened on Billy, even though when Zach was explaining to Min the why behind it, because, he explained that Zordon for them was, like a father figure, and Billy just kind of, for a moment, it's like he wanted that back. And with as smart as he is, figured, yeah, he could do it. I also like this as an explanation for Robot Rita being, I would say, probably more hardcore than traditional Rita, because, sure, Rita, as we knew her in the original, she was always attacking the Rangers, trying to destroy the Rangers and whatnot. But Robot Rita, she's the first one to actually, start throwing, death curses and death beams and to actually kill a Ranger. And of course, the reasoning behind that is this is Rita in her most pure evil form. This is all of the organic stripped away, because, Rita, most likely as an organic being, was not born evil. She was most likely seduced later on in life, and obviously did have some essence for good. Otherwise, Zordon's wave would not have, stripped her of that evil, but instead disintegrated her altogether. And I do think that is a very interesting distinction that, the show does make. I also think newcomer Charlie Kirsch did really well. I like what she did with the character, and just her entire story as a whole was, heartbreaking. It was relatable, and overall seems to be, I think, a good fit to try to live up to Twee Trang's legacy as a Power Ranger. It was also nice to have, Walter Jones and David Yost get some screen time, because over past Power Ranger episodes where you'd have like crossovers and old Rangers coming back, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's Tommy that's going to be coming back. Or the last, big crossover had Jason come back. But this is effectively the first time that Walter Jones and David Yost have returned. And of course, it was always a joy to see Catherine Sutherland as Kat, because even though she was a latecomer to the series in season 3, she is still a part of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers legacy, and I think has effectively earned her right to be in the special, just as much as Steve Cardenas as Rocky has, who replaced Jason in season 2. And again, I'd say, despite the negative aspect involving, the Megazord battle and final fight with Scissored, I was ultimately entertained by this special. It was, again, it was heartwarming, it was nostalgic. And yes, even though I would have liked to have seen the entire, first season original team back for the special and being the Power Rangers, for what they were able to accomplish here, I'm still very happy with it. It was exactly what I expected, and for that, I am satisfied with what I got. So, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always. What did you think about this special if you have watched it? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please leave your comments in the comment section below.
And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and ring that notification bell for more comic book content. And if you're wondering what to watch next, consider one of these 2 videos. Alright, take care, have a great day, and as always, stay geeky.